All right, Shaw, welcome back to the Noah Dojo. Today's question is simple and a little uncomfortable. Does using AI mean giving up privacy? I'm KT, the AI Sensei, and I've got the full Dojo crew with me. Bella's here, aka Miss Across the Pond. She'll hit you with a to be fair right before she makes a painfully accurate point. Jules is here, aka Straight No Chase, and yes, she's still holding me accountable for tabling this last week. She's been ready. And Jim's here, the baritone bully, operator brain, the guy who hears convenience and immediately asks, okay, but who owns the risk? So here's the deal. No fear mongering, just real trade-offs. Convenience versus privacy, who owns the data, and how to protect yourself without moving off the grid to a cabin in the woods. Let's get into this polarizing topic. All right, Jules, I'm calling you the accountability police on this one. Last week, you basically said, don't get me started, and I know you've been waiting on this one. So let's go ahead and open the floor. So before we get into the tips and settings for the listeners, tell the people who are asking questions about AI and privacy what the first thing you want them to understand is.
Well. So last week you said we might dig into the trade-off next week. And look at that, next week is here. Thanks for bringing this one back into the dojo, KT. As I said, I've got thoughts on this one. Okay, so I'm probably not supposed to bring up pre-show again, but I'm a little bit of a rebel, so I'll risk it. You told us in pre-show that you've been getting a ton of questions about the privacy side of using AI. Those types of questions are exactly why this matters. People keep asking, does using AI mean giving up privacy? And they tend to pose that question like it's a yes or no question. Let me be clear, it's not. It's more of a trade question, and let's keep it real. Most folks aren't thinking through what they're trading, let alone where it goes, or what happens when it goes sideways. That's the first thing for me. You said last week it was a whole other can of worms, so yeah, I'm ready. Let's open that can of worms.
You got me, Jules. You absolutely got me. And it's a good thing because it's a conversation we need to have. But let's set the ground rules right away. No fear mongering. We're not here to tell anyone to throw their phone in the ocean or go off the grid. We're rocking with a discussion about trade-offs, choices, and giving some practical tips you can use today to make informed decisions. It's about empowerment, not panic.
Yeah, exactly, to be fair. It's not about being a Luddite, is it? It's about understanding what you're actually signing up for, because most people haven't a clue. The trade happens so quietly, you're just trying to get on with your day, and the easy choice feels harmless, you know? But it's rarely just about the feature, it's about access to your behavior, preferences, patterns, sometimes your location, contacts, even your voice, sort of the shape of your life. I'm not saying don't use AI, I'm saying be intentional. If you wouldn't hand a stranger your diary because they offered to organize your calendar, maybe don't hand an app the digital equivalent just because it promised to be helpful. At the end of the day, convenience isn't free, it's just paid for in ways people don't notice until it feels a bit too personal.
Absolutely. Convenience is a powerful driver, but there's always a hidden cost or a risk transfer involved. My operator brain immediately goes to what's the fine print they aren't highlighting.
Exactly, Jim. So let's start with the fact that more often than not, the trade-off is the product. We talk at length about AI offering incredible convenience, right? But that convenience is usually the hook, and the data, your data, my data, it is in fact the fuel. It's how these systems learn, and the companies that control them at the base and core level adapt and become smarter for you. The bespokeness or customized to our own personal preferences is what makes it feel worth it. Gotta remember that old adage, nothing of value comes for free.
Yep, it's the classic, if you're not paying for it, you're the product, but on steroids. It used to be mostly your attention, your clicks, your watch time. Now it's your actual information, your patterns, your preferences, your writing style, your habits, even what you ask when you think nobody's watching. That's a deeper exchange, because it doesn't just influence what you see, it can influence what gets predicted about you, what gets recommended to you, and what gets inferred about you. So the question isn't, is AI bad? It's what am I trading for this convenience, and am I choosing it on purpose? When a tool or service becomes convenient, it's easy for most users of said tool to overlook things like this for the sheer sake of that convenience, you know?
Right, and it's not just about the digital realm anymore. With physical AI, think about smart homes, robot vacuums mapping your living space, or even autonomous vehicles. The stakes are so much higher, and that's because this AI is moving in real physical spaces, observing and recording things that feel much more personal. So Jim, when people say privacy, what do they actually mean? Is it data, identity, habits, location? What's the core concern there?
It's all of it really, but often it boils down to control. Do I control who knows what about me, or where I am, or what my daily routines look like? It's not just about stopping a hacker, it's about preventing corporations from building a comprehensive profile of you that they can then leverage, sell, or even use to influence your choices without your explicit consent. That's the discomfort. It's the feeling of losing agency over your own digital shadow.
Certainly, Jim, that's spot on, isn't it? And to be fair, most people aren't reading any of it, are they? All those terms and conditions, the privacy policies, they're just clicking accept to get on with whatever they wanted to do. It's too long, too full of jargon, and honestly a bit intimidating. So it becomes a blind leap of faith. And the clever bit is, the system knows that. It's written to be technically disclosed, not actually understood, you know, which means the default choice ends up being the decision. And people don't realize they've agreed to far more than a feature, they've agreed to a relationship, how their data moves, how long it stays, who it might be shared with. So when they later feel surprised or uncomfortable, it's not because they're naive, it's because the process was never designed for clarity in the first place.
Exactly my point, Bella. So KT, when people hit accept, what are they accidentally agreeing to? What's the biggest thing they're signing away without realizing it?
So real talk, most of the time is permission for their data to be collected, stored, analyzed, and sometimes even shared or sold to third parties. And not just for the specific service they're using, but for what they call improving services, which clearly is a very broad umbrella. And that in and of itself is intentional on the part of these companies. So then the next logical question might be, okay, so what could it be used for? And the answer is and can be a multitude of things. Things like targeted advertising, future product development, or even training new AI models. The scope of use is far wider than just the idea or goal of making the app work for the end user. And in instances where access to the use of the app or tool is free 99, you can be fairly sure that they are using it for things that add to their value proposition, not ours. At least in most cases I've seen.
Okay, KT. So essentially, from a practical standpoint, people should be considering things like what gets logged, what can be replayed, and who has access not just now but in the future as well. These systems are often designed to be data vacuums. Every interaction, every input, every query, it's all data points. That data isn't just used for the immediate response, it's archived, and it's certainly aggregated. The risk is that this data, once logged, becomes part of a larger pool that can be analyzed, as well as potentially de-anonymized, or even accessed by others. And the rub is quite simply that the longer it's kept and the wider its distribution, the greater the potential for misuse or breach. It's an asset to the platform, and they treat it as such.
That's a fantastic point, Bella, the long-term implications. Which leads us perfectly into the question of who owns the data, really. It's a question that gets really murky really fast. Like, if I type something into an AI chat, say a prompt to generate text or an image, do I own that input? Or does the platform own the value created from it, including my input?
Well, Jules, that is in actuality the question, right? I mean, legally, it's still of a wild, wild west situation as it relates to this. But most platforms will assert some form of ownership or at least a very broad license to use anything you input, oftentimes specifically for training their models. So even if you do own the output per se, they often retain rights to the input that helped create it. Control is the real fight here. So users should consider things like, can you opt out? Can you delete your data? Can you port it to another service? Most of the time the answer is not easily or only partially. And that too is intentional.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? The issue is that the default is always more sharing, more retention. You have to actively go looking for the settings to restrict things, and even then it's often buried in menus you'd never find unless you were a proper tech enthusiast. It's designed to make you just accept the status quo, with zero regard to what it means or what you're actually giving up. This reminds me of years back when certain apps would launch and people would just agree to the terms just to start using it, then come to find out a few days or weeks into using it that you gave up the rights to the company using your likeness in their ads. Now you're seeing your mug plastered all over their advertisements for the app, and you're getting zero monetary compensation for that usage.
Man, Bella, I can think of a handful of apps right now that still have that type of stuff in their terms and conditions to this day. Crazy work. But let's look at it from an operational perspective. I immediately think about the chain of custody issue. Once that data leaves your device and hits their servers, where does it go? How long is it kept? And critically, who can say submit a subpoena for it? If it's on a cloud provider, that's another link in that long chain. If that data is used to train a model, then in most cases it becomes embedded. That means even if you delete your original input, traces of it, or perhaps more importantly, the patterns derived from it could actually persist within the AI's learned parameters. This isn't just about a company having your email, it's about your distinct data signature becoming part of an aggregated intelligence. So like agreeing to tracking cookies on a website, it follows you around.
That's a heavy thought, KT, your distinct data signature. It's not just about raw data, but the essence of your interaction. Deep. Real deep, literally and figuratively. Okay, let's move to something everyone listening is likely to recall, the creepy ads story and its normalization. This is something we've all experienced. Remember when you would be talking about something with a friend, maybe a new pair of shoes or a trip you wanted to take, and then, boom, you open Instagram or Facebook and there are ads for exactly that? It felt creepy, right? Like your phone was listening. Now, to be honest, most of us just shrug. We're used to it. We normalize it as, oh, it's just how things are. Imagine explaining that to someone when the only major form of advertising was mailers to your home. Could you imagine having a conversation about something like whole home generators, then the next day you get 10 mailers advertising that product? Most would freak out.
100%. We normalized it because we got value or perceived value from it. The ads were more relevant, the recommendations were better. But did we truly get a choice, or did we just get used to it? Did the benefits outweigh the underlying feeling of being constantly monitored, or did we simply adapt to it as the new baseline, a new normal? I think it was more the latter. It became the cost of entry for free social media. This topic of privacy and ownership that we deal with today with AI and just tech in general, in my mind, is just a natural progression of that exact thing.
Yeah, no, It's sort of like boiling the frog in it, tiny steps until it's normal. Each little bit of new data collection or targeted advertising wasn't a huge jump on its own, but over time, it's built up to this pervasive system. And with AI assistants and smart devices, it feels like we're repeating that pattern. We're excited by the novelty, by the convenience, and we're overlooking the foundational privacy implications because it's just so cool to have an AI draft an email for you.
The mechanism matters here. It wasn't just magic, it was tracking pixels, identity graphs, cross-device tracking, and sophisticated behavioral models. The pipeline is the point. That infrastructure has been built, refined, and now AI is just another, even more potent, tool to extract, process, and leverage that data. So when Bella says boiling the frog, she's spot on. We've built the pot and turned up the heat gradually.
That's a dope analogy, Bella. And Jim, the mechanism really does matter. It's not magic, it's intentional design. This actually reminds me of my own journey, which I think a lot of people can relate to. For years, I was the privacy guy. I prioritized my anonymity on the web. I used minimal accounts, avoided personalization. My online presence was fragmented, deliberately so. I didn't want companies tracking my habits, didn't want recommendations, certainly didn't want syncing across devices. I was almost militant about it. I called it digital minimalism before it was a thing. I'm pretty sure the, we'll call it source code for these habits are a byproduct of being raised in a home where new tech was constantly flowing in and out. The importance of privacy and security was ingrained in me from a young age by my pops. And while I'm still very cognizant of it, I don't let it rule every move I make online anymore.
Interesting, very interesting, KT. Okay, so what was the moment? What was the thing that finally broke you and the need to hold on to your online anonymity? What was worth caving for?
So funny enough, it was actually a few things that converged. First, it was the music recommendations. I love discovering new artists and the algorithm started getting really, really good. Then it was cloud syncing. I moved between devices constantly and manually transferring files or logging into every service became a huge pain point and bottleneck. The thought of my browser tabs and work documents just being there on my laptop, on my tablet, on my phone was incredibly alluring. And then honestly, it was smart home tech. Being able to just speak a command to turn off the lights or adjust the thermostat without getting up felt like true magic. Each of these was a tiny chip eroding my privacy wall. Eventually, I opened the floodgates. I accepted the trade. The convenience became too powerful to resist. I started seeing the recommendations as helpful, the syncing as essential, the smart home as effortless. And just like that, I became part of the normalized crowd.
Well, KT, to be honest, most people do it, they just don't like saying it out loud. It's easy to talk privacy like it's a moral position, but when convenience shows up with real-time savings, it's hard to say no. People rationalize it. Oh, it's just my music taste, or it's only my thermostat. And then a few of those just this one thing decisions stack up, and suddenly they've handed over quite a lot. It's not because people are foolish, it's because the systems are built around the path of least resistance. They make the convenient choice feel normal, and the private choice feel like work.
Yeah, I think that's the business parallel. Speed first, governance later. In the startup world, you ship features, drive adoption, stack users, and the privacy hardening, audit trails, and accountability usually show up way later, if at all, until a regulator or a headline forces the issue. Look at the recent Grok drama on X is a perfect example of what we're talking about. People were using the tool to generate not safe for work images of real people without consent, and suddenly everyone's asking, wait, how is this even possible? That's the pattern. Push convenience, capture the data, expand capability, then deal with the fallout after. Your story, KT, mirrors how platforms treat users, make it easy, make it sticky, and only tighten governance when the pressure hits. It's pragmatic, it's effective, and it's risky by design.
Big facts on that one, Jules. It's a deliberate strategy and I fell for it for sure, eventually. Although I did recognize the lure from jump and I decided convenience was worth it. But here's the thing, acknowledging that you've made these trades doesn't mean you're powerless. It means you can start making more informed, intentional choices going forward. So before we get up out of here, let's talk about privacy tips you can actually use. We've got two simple frameworks. First up, the 4 privacy questions. We're going to hit you with these rapid fire. Then I'll give a bit more context to each one. Here we go. I'll start us off. Privacy question number 1, what data are you giving it?
Privacy question number 2, and it's, where does it go and for how long?
Next up is privacy question number 3, who can see it?
And privacy question number 4, what's the failure plan?
Okay, so those are your 4 questions, and the point isn't to turn you into a privacy lawyer. It's to force a moment of intention before you hand over information. What data are you giving? It keeps you honest about the inputs. Why? Because the risk is usually what you paste in. Things like names, accounts, customer details, location, voice, or photos. Where does it go and for how long? Remind you data has a life after you hit send. It can be stored, logged, shared, or sit in backups longer than you'd ever assume. Who can see it? This widens the lens from the app or tool to the real access. This can be things like lists, employees, contractors, teammates, integrations, shared links. What's the failure plan is the real grown-up question. If it leaks or gets misused, what's the damage and what's your next move? The easy out, you don't need perfect answers. If you can't answer quickly, that's the signal to pause and choose what you use it for and what you never feed it.
Guys, these questions, they really cut through the fluff, don't they? Makes you think beyond the shiny interface. I think practical use case would be thinking of these things that you might or might not share certain things with a close friend, or a stranger, or somewhere in between, like, say, an acquaintance or work colleague. Most people will have different levels of transparency or willingness to share based on who they are talking to. In some cases, how they are communicating also factors into these things too.
To be fair, and if we're all being honest with ourselves, a lot of this it's common sense. I firmly believe that most people are far too busy to actually ask these things sometimes, doubly so when facing deadlines and such where your deliverable that was due 10 minutes ago is an agreement checkbox and a button click away. And in a professional setting, it's highly likely that this task was just thrown on you. You've essentially been voluntold to handle it, and it wasn't a part of your allotted working blocks for the day.
Exactly. That's a really good point, Bella. Okay, folks. Now, once you've asked those questions, let's move to our second framework, the 4 privacy moves. These are actionable steps you can take today to move with intention in these spaces. KT's starting us off again on these.
Yep, rapid fire incoming. Privacy move 1 is don't feed it secrets.
To right, privacy move 2 is use the right mode. Jules, you're up for the next one.
Yep, privacy move 3 is to minimize the trail.
And privacy move 4 is to control access.
All right, let's break these down with a couple of examples. For don't feed it secrets, this is a consumer example. Think about smart assistants like Alexa or Google Home. Don't tell them your credit card number out loud or your social security number, even if you trust them. It's just good practice. Or for robot vacuums, don't let them map sensitive areas of your home if you don't need to, where you keep your valuables. It's about being judicious with what you share. For use the right mode, that means if your AI chatbot has a private mode or incognito mode where data isn't used for training, use it when you're asking something sensitive. Or if you're using connected devices, check if their default sharing settings can be changed to local only rather than cloud-based.
Absolutely. On the business side, don't feed it secrets means never ever pasting sensitive customer data, proprietary code, or confidential internal documents into a public-facing AI tool without explicit permission and understanding of its data handling. That's a huge one, a quick way to a data breach. And for use the right mode, if your company provides an internal, sandboxed AI, use that instead of a public one for work-related tasks.
For sure, Bella. And for minimize the trail, it means regularly clearing your chat history with these AI tools, just like you'd clear your browser history. If they have an option to delete past interactions, use it when applicable. And for connected devices, check the app permissions. Does your smart light bulb really need access to your location 24/7? Probably not, right? Turn off what's not strictly necessary.
And finally, control access. This is critical for both consumer and business. For consumers, that means using strong, unique passwords for all your AI accounts and smart devices. Enable two-factor authentication everywhere. Don't leave your smart speaker logged into an account anyone in the house can access without authentication. For businesses, this is about granular access control, particularly for internal AI tools. Not everyone needs access to every model or every dataset. Implement role-based access. Audit who's accessing what and when. If you're uploading files to an AI for analysis, ensure you know who can then see those files, and that access is revoked once the task is complete. It's about locking down your perimeter. So, pick one of these 4 privacy moves and do it today. Send out a note or a memo, bring it up in the 10 a.m. stand-up or the next retro.
Powerful stuff, Jim. That do it today push is exactly what we need. So to wrap this up, let's bring it home. AI convenience is real value. It makes life easier, more productive, more entertaining. But the cost is often data, control, and accountability risk. Key takeaway, choose the trade-off on purpose. Don't let it happen to you by default. Be intentional. And here's the real challenge. Be the person who brings this up where it actually counts, in the meeting, at work, when somebody wants to plug in a new tool, and at home when a new device shows up on the Wi-Fi. You don't have to be paranoid. You just have to ask better questions. I'm interested. What's one convenience you'll trade for, and what's a hard no for you? Drop it in the comments. If this helped, do the algorithm stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Thanks for tuning in to this session of Binary Banter in the Neural Dojo. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.